it's Sally. So yesterday I made a video on how to make these little easy tassels with fibers, yarns, strips of cloth, and just attached them to a loop made out of wire, and then I used the bead cone on top to hide that. And so I've had some people asking about making tassels out of beads like this. So you start with a loop, and this is 20 gauge wire. Now this would work really well for larger beads, but and then when I made the tassels out of the fibers, I just folded the loop like this, and then made a stack of tassel or pieces of fibers and folded them in half, put them on here, and then wrapped it around and made a loop. So today, though, I want to make one out of beads. So I'm going to use some 22 gauge wire. I think this will be fine for the beads that I'm going to be using. It's smaller and a little easier to work with. So I'm just going to cut off a piece about 4 or 5 inches, and I'm going to go ahead and make a loop. So this is my round nose pliers. I'm just going to bend it up about there. Then I'm going to take the hemostat and to hold the end of the loop, because my fingers aren't that strong, and this way I can wrap the loop, and I got my right hand here, which is my strong one, for making the loop. So I'm going to cross the wires like so, and then I'm going to wrap it around 1 and 2, maybe 2 or 3 times. And then I'm going to just trim that off. So now I have a nice little loop here, which is what I'm going to use to thread the beads on. It's a little bit crooked, so I'm going to just straighten it up. So I'm not going to put the cone on yet, but I'm going to use a cone at the top just to cover this up, because it's going to have threads and the wire there, and it really isn't that pretty. So here are some things you could use. It doesn't have to be a cone. It could be a cone. If I was using a cone, I might use this silver one. If I can get it through the hole. So that would, see, all the beads would be coming out this end, and all the threads and things would be covered up. So that would work. Here's a little small one, which I've used these before. It's just made out of tin in a cone shape. But you could also, it doesn't have to be a cone, it could be a large bead, like this. See, that would slide down and cover up that loop. So a bead with a large hole would work. And I'm not going to worry about which one I'm going to use yet, because I'm going to go ahead and string it. So to start with, I'm going to use these beads. They're smaller. They're not exactly seed beads. These would be seed beads. And I could make it out of those, but I'm going to use these because they have a little bit bigger hole. And so I think I've already got some of these cut. Yeah. Okay. And I kind of like these colors. And I might mix in some beads like this, and maybe put these at the end. So let's see how that goes. Okay, I will need a thread and needle. So my thread that I'm going to use is this Clark's bobbin. S15 is the size, it's nylon. It's pretty fine, but strong. So actually I have mine on my little bobbin spinner here, which makes it easier to pull off what I want. So I'm just gonna pull out So there's about maybe 3 feet of thread. Then I'm going to use a needle. So I have some different ones here that I thought I would show. So we have here this one here. These are 25 needles. They're size 12, but I've written a little note on here that they have small holes, so I don't really like those needles. This one is a beading needle. The size is 10. It has a fairly big eye, so I probably could use that. This is size, it says H16. Not sure what that is, but very fine needle and tiny holes. They're not too bad. I could probably thread those. And then here's some other, it says extra fine beading needles, and those would probably not be too hard to thread. There's a needle threader, but I find these hardly ever work. And the other option is to get a big eye needle. This is basically a needle with all eye. Let me just show you what it looks like. So here's what the package says. Doris Easy Eye Beading Needles. And there are 2 in here. And I like these because they're really easy to thread. They're kind of sharp at both ends, so you have to be careful. But it's basically, I think they're made out of 2 pieces of piano wire. And it's like 2 pieces. See, I don't know if you can see that or not. They're kind of welded together on the ends. So you could just put your thread through there. So I'm going to go ahead and use that one. We'll see how it goes. So I'll put my needle, put the thread through there. Then to make the thread a little bit easier to work with, I'm going to wax it. This is just a little lump of beeswax. My sister has bees, so I was able to get some from her, but you can certainly buy beeswax in a sewing supply store or whatever. So I'm just going to kind of run the thread across this block of beeswax, like so. That makes the thread a little bit less likely to tangle, because it will tangle if you're not careful. In fact, I'm just going to get these things out of the way that it could tangle up with. Okay, so to start with, I'm going to use my, let's see, what did I do with my little metal? Didn't I make a metal piece? Yeah, here it is. So I'm going to just take at the end of the thread. I'm going to leave some tail so that I have something to tie to when I'm done, when this thread's used up. And I'm going to tie a little knot. So I've left about 2 inches there. And I think I'll go ahead and knot it again. Like so. So now the thread is attached to my loop. Okay, so threading the beads. Now I'm just going to start threading them up here. This probably is going to get kind of boring. Maybe you could fast forward until I get a little farther along. It's kind of tedious. I'm working on a piece of blanket here that's kind of that Velux type blanket. And it's nice to work on because, let's see, there we go. Got a little start there. Because the beads don't jump around, and I can easily pick them up with my needle. I used to make these tassels all the time. I did them in school colors, rainbow colors. People would just ask me, to make some for them, and I sold them at the farmer's market also. Okay, we're not going to have this one be too long, so I can show you how to go back and up to the loop, and also how to add maybe something at the end. I'm not worrying about the colors of the beads or trying to make any type of pattern. I'm just letting it be random. So now looks like we have about 2 inches, maybe getting close to 3. Just keep threading them on. And actually, I have done it before where I've actually counted the beads so that they all end at the exact same spot, which person could do that. Okay, I think that's enough, and I'm going to add like a little end piece, and it's going to be this. So what I like it, the teardrop shape of it. So I'm going to put it through the small end so that the bottom hangs like a teardrop. Then I'm going to put a little bead at the bottom, and that's going to hold it in place. I'm just going to pick one that's kind of small, like this. So there's that bead, and I won't thread back through that, but I'm going to thread back through all the rest of them. So I'm putting my needle back in here, going back up the other way. That little bead I just put at the end is going to hold it in place. And I find it's a little easier if you can kind of maybe stretch it a little bit. I haven't done this in a while, but you want to go back through all those beads. And I suppose once I get going, I might be able to do it a little faster. Let's get those out of the way. So I'm just pulling my thread through now, like so. I don't know if I'm on, oh, I hope I'm in camera. Like so. So there, see how that end looks? So I left off here, so I'm going to go back in and continue threading through till I get to the very top. Sometimes they go easy, like right now. Sometimes they're a little hard to get going. But the needle is and thread are small enough so that they'll fit back through these beads a second time. So there, so I'm just kind of being careful I don't tangle it up. Okay, here's where I left off, so I'm going back in. Should be able to make it to the top now. And okay, made it all the way to the top. So now I'm just kind of pulling it snug. I'm going to pull this end and pull this end and get it nice and snugged up, which is good. That's good. Now then, I will continue with this same thread. Just get that knot slid down, like so. There. So I'm going to just take the thread, take my needle and go through that metal loop and kind of knot it to hold this strand in place. So I wrapped it around once, and that's kind of helping to hold it. I think I'll go through one more time. Maybe this time put a knot in it. So I'm going back through my thread and making a knot, sliding it up. There. Okay, that one's in place. Now I can start another one. So you can continue on as long as you want, and you can continue using the same size beads or maybe mix in something different. I was thinking about putting some of these in there. I hope I'm in camera here. So I'm going to do a little bit more, and then I'll put one of those bigger beads on. Okay, so I think now maybe I'll do a little more. Okay, that's probably enough. So I'm now just going to slide one of these bigger ones on. And certainly you could put all kinds of beads in here. I have actually some of these, which would look nice on a tassel. I thought these green ones would be pretty on here. And then I have some little crystals too. So certainly, you know, you can make your tassel as elaborate or as simple as you like. Okay. But, you know, the smaller beads definitely make a nice tassel with a lot of movement. And I kind of like that. I'm going to try to make this these are all about the same length, but they might not be. These two are stuck together. Okay, maybe that's about the same length. It's longer, that's okay. I think I'll put something different here at the end. Maybe one of these green beads. So I'm just going to pick out one. How about that one? And then I'm going to put one of the small beads on. That's going to hold it in place. And then I'm going to thread back through, just like I did before. So this strand will have those beads on it. So I'm threading now back through all the beads. So I think these, people would buy these and put them as Christmas ornaments, or maybe hang them in from their rear view mirror or in a window. It's kind of whatever you feel like doing. Maybe they're not super duper strong, so I'm not sure they would work like hanging from a purse unless you were careful with it. I mean, you know, they're strong, but this is, after all, it is strong nylon thread, but it will break, especially if it gets caught up on something. Okay, so the nice thing about this long needle is I can go thread back through a lot of beads. And there we go, back to the top. And once again, I'm going to tie a little knot. You can see why I like to have this part covered up, because it's a white thread. It's not really that pretty to look at. Okay, I want to be careful I don't get these beads hung up. Okay, maybe one more time, go through there, make a knot. That should hold. Okay, so same thing. I'm going to continue making another strand. And actually I might do this video in 2 parts, because it's kind of boring to watch me string these beads. And I'll show you how it looks when I feel like I have enough beads on the strand to make it into a tassel. So I'll be back with a part 2.